I'm going to try the very best I can to push through this agenda as quickly as we can. There's a lot of information that's going to be thrown out at you. Bear with me. When we get to a point for questions and answers, I will announce that. But let's move as quickly as we can through the agenda until we get to that point. Gun rights. It's a big and important topic in our country, in our state. How many of you believe that there is an absolute assault on our Second Amendment rights in this country? Obviously. How many of you understand that there's an absolute assault against our gun rights right here in the state of South Carolina by our own state lawmakers? Thank you. There are some things that you'll hear tonight that's going to hopefully make you angry enough, because the truth, when the truth is spoken about something that's evil, people who are not evil get angry about that. All right? It's called righteous anger as far as I'm concerned. And we're going to tell you about some things tonight. When I make the comment in my email that went out and in some other things, that right here in South Carolina, Republicans are trying to take your firearms away from you. I'm not exaggerating, folks. SEP Powell, if you would come on up here to the front. Brent, do we have a second microphone for a guest speaker? Okay. While we get a handle on that, I apologize. SEP Powell is one of the folks that heads up Freedom Action Network of South Carolina, an absolutely great conservative organization. I've worked with them now for a couple of years. I don't think we've ever had one issue that we saw things differently on. They are rock solid, hardcore conservative. When Seth gets back up here, or gets up here, he's going to give us what I call a 30,000-foot view of our Second Amendment rights in South Carolina. Where are we at from a 30,000-foot view? And then we're going to bring it down closer and closer to the point where we're actually talking about issues of legislation that's been filed or will be filed this year that is a threat to our gun rights. As soon as Seth is done with that, he's going to talk a little bit about the Greenville County delegation meeting that's coming up. By the way, on the back of everybody's agenda is action items. This is an activist group, so there's some things on the back that will help us at the end of the meeting. Sorry about that, folks. All right.
Social distance there.
Social distance. This is mandated to like a shock the crap out of you if you get too close. Don't give them any ideas. The government will probably want to institute that. And then as soon as Seth goes through that, we're going to call up our guest tonight, Sheriff Hobart Lewis, and I'm very excited about that. I thank him for being here already. So Seth, take it away. Legislative overview, 30,000-foot view of where we're at right now, and what are some threats that's coming up.
Awesome. Can everybody hear me? We good? First of all, guys, what a great crowd.
Amen.
Just give yourself a
Thank
round
you.
of applause.
Appreciate everybody for being here.
I know we didn't think through the parking situation before this event, so I apologize. I had to walk across the roadway to get here, but thank you guys for coming. As Harry said, we are talking about gun rights, and I just have to piggyback on what you were saying a second ago. And just real fast, when it comes to your gun rights in South Carolina, who here thinks it's the Democrats in D.C. that are your biggest threat? Good, you're in the right place. Because I'll tell you, whether it passed this past year, or whether it's trying to pass next year, it is Republicans in South Carolina that are coming for your guns. And I'll show you what I mean. Everyone's heard about the gun bill they passed back in June. The Open Carry with Training Act, right? Or Open Carry with permission, I'm sorry. This is getting should I just walk this?
Yes.
Yeah? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Force me to be loud. So essentially, last year there was a bill that said if you have a CWP or concealed weapons permit, you can now find it in South Carolina. Open carry. Now at the time, I said, that's not good enough. We want our gun rights restored full, which means you as an American South Carolinian take it. We'll say if you have a CWP, you already have your permission slip, now we'll allow you to open carry. I said, that's not perfect, but at least it's a step forward, right? And you would expect with Republicans in the State House, they would be looking to move our gun rights forward, not back. Unfortunately, the law they passed is a half step forward and 2 steps back. So the half step forward is obviously, hey, now at least some people in some places can carry openly if they see fit. That is a half step forward. What are the 2 steps back? First and foremost, Section 8 of that bill, 3094, in case you want to look it up, H 3094, Section 8 of that law gives local governments, whether it's the county, the city, or municipalities, the ability to restrict your ability to open carry, not just your handguns, but also your rifles and long guns at permitted events. Now, to put that into perspective, there has never been a time when local governments could restrict your gun rights in South Carolina. We had something called the Supremacy Clause that said a local government cannot supersede the gun laws of the state. So if the state said you can carry concealed, you can carry concealed. If the state said you can carry your long guns or rifles openly, you can do so wherever you went. Now, with Section 8 of that bill, they've allowed local governments to come and say, at any permitted event, we can outlaw the open carry of your handguns and your long guns. What does that mean? Well, it means in the city of Greenville now, it's already passed, if you try to go downtown for Fall for Greenville, or during the summer on Thursday and Friday nights when they have the Open Music Festival, right? You can no longer open carry. This is happening in Charleston, Columbia, Spartanburg, Rock Hill's looking into it. Needless to say, all these Republicans who passed that bill, voted for that bill, and I'll be naming names in a second, opened the door for local politicians. Most of in the city of Greenville, they don't have to run as a Republican or Democrat. They just run as a person. And now they can restrict your gun rights. That's one that sells backwards. Because as much as these guys will run around and tell you, we did the most for gun rights in 50 years in South Carolina. That's bullcrap.
So, to give an example,
Yep.
during last year's legislative session, prior to open carry with a permit being passed, signed into law by the governor, the city of Columbia, is that correct, passed some gun laws.
Yep.
The Attorney General of South Carolina filed a lawsuit against the city of Columbia and said that the city is violating the Supremacy Clause that says that the only people in our state that can create a law concerning firearms and ammunition is the lawmakers themselves. The Supreme Court ruled that what the city had done was illegal, and they reversed the city's ordinance. So while the lawmakers are arguing back and forth about our gun rights, they were handed a victory by the Attorney General, and then during the same legislative session, they gave away the victory that was won for them by the Attorney General. They changed the law to give the local governments the authority to restrict your gun rights. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Just for some more details about that, what crazy Stephen Benjamin passed, the mayor of Columbia, was a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he passed that. Alan Wilson, not wanting to, but because of pressure, stood up and said, I will sue the city of Columbia, and won based on the Supremacy Clause.
Yep.
Your Republican legislators threw that in the trash can.
Yep.
There is no more Supremacy Clause to protect you from politicians in your local cities and counties. And like I say, across the state, you're already seeing these petty politicians work to restrict your gun rights in any way they can. And I'll tell you, if you think that Knox White is much removed from Stephen Benjamin, you've got another thing coming in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
This is coming to Greenville.
Yep.
Section 9 of the bill. We're going to make South Carolina a sanctuary state for the Second Amendment. We're not going to allow anyone to come to South Carolina from the federal government and take our guns. Let me ask you, what is the penalty if anyone, law enforcement, from SLED down to your local
without teeth. It is something they can throw on a campaign poster and brag about, but it means nothing when it comes to protecting our gun rights in South Carolina. Section 10 is probably the most egregious to me. Right now, because of what your Republican state legislators passed, if you are even accused of a crime, not convicted, accused of a crime, you step foot in a courtroom in South Carolina, your information is going to SLEP, and then it's going to the FBI. And I can walk you through the process of that if you like, but to put it short, even someone with a temporary restraining order on them, which, guys, you may have a temporary restraining order out on you and not even know it. You will get flagged in the system. Can't buy a firearm, can't get a CWP. That was in the bill these legislators passed. Now, at the same time, in that bill, they also allowed certain politicians and certain government employees to carry their firearm anywhere they see fit. Courtroom, and by the way, before this law was passed, they were allowed to do so if they were taking out the responsibilities or the requirements of their job. They literally struck that out of the law. Politicians, certain politicians, and certain government employees can now carry their firearm anywhere they want to. Meanwhile, they're restricting your ability to do so and require you of a permission slip to do so. To me, that says it all. The bill they passed, the Republicans passed this year, that gun law was not to restore your gun rights. It was to restrict your gun rights, and they did. They've already done that. But I'll tell you, they're not done yet. And this is the scary part. There was a bill that was filed in January. Some of you guys may have gotten a text about this. When we saw it, we flagged it, we tried to send it out. But to be honest, at the time, I did not think there was a possible way they would go through this. And I want to read a little bit of analysis about it. Basically, the bill says that if you are convicted of a crime that could have over a year's jail sentence attached to it, not that you get over a year, but that you possibly could have gotten a year's jail time, they will restrict your gun rights. Now we have a CWP, now we have a firearm. I want to read a few laws that, based on this bill they're pushing, would fit that description. Slander or libel. Basically what we do every month.
Yeah. Yep.
Trespassing on state park property. Think about that. You're a teenager. You and your friends want to go have a few beers out on the lake. You trespass on state property. Boom. Your gun rights are gone. Not just then, but for a long period of time. Sale or possession of counterfeit cigarettes. I don't even know what a counterfeit cigarette is.
State lottery.
Whoa. That'll save your voice.
Y'all right here?
Yes.
Y'all right here?
Yeah.
Recording a movie in a theater on a cell phone.
That's dangerous, folks.
Yep, you're gonna lose your gun rights. This is my favorite one. Contempt of the General Assembly. Includes willfully giving quote-unquote material incomplete testimony to lawmakers on the road or failing to comply with a legislative subpoena. Think about that. If this bill passes, there is nothing that stops the General Assembly, Republicans, from subpoenaing Harry, myself, Scruffy, any of y'all. And then if they decide, you don't have to go to court and prove this, if they decide you're giving material incomplete testimony, they can strike you with a charge and strip you of your gun rights. Guys, this is dangerous. And I want to read, so just yesterday, an article came out about this. I want to read you a paragraph that should show you and everyone why it is Republicans and not Democrats that we have to fear in this state. And why it's Republicans and not Democrats that we have to hold accountable and put pressure on. A bill filed by Representative Seth Rose, no kinship, don't hold against me, a Democrat from Columbia, increases punishment from a maximum of 3 years, blah, 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 blah. Penalties would rise substantially under the bill filed by GOP Representative Bruce Bryant, previously sheriff of York County for 20 years. His bill would set the maximum to 10 years on first offense and 30 years on third, with a mandatory minimum of 15. So the Democrat is actually going to be less lenient when it comes to restricting your gun rights than the Republican, the former sheriff Republican of York County. Guys, last year at this time, or a little earlier, I told you that going into the session that passing permitless carry was the most important thing that I wanted to do. That I had a personal situation with my family being threatened at the IHOP down on Woodruff Road. I'm pretty sure you're going to hear more about that later. From my grandmother here. And I said, it is unacceptable that my sister was sitting there in the IHOP and could not have her firearm in her purse because she had a CVP and instead is 50 feet away in her car. That's just the most important thing we can do. And we tried our best. And yet, they passed that crap bill I discussed earlier. And now they're trying to pass this. Guys, I cannot tell you enough. They are serious about restricting your gun rights. If that bill they passed this year wasn't enough of an example, the bill that Bruce Bryant and other Republicans are pushing should be. They are not kidding around. They do not respect your Second Amendment rights. They have no intention of protecting them. In fact, they are working every day to restrict them and take them away. I say all that to say this, and I will say one more thing about that bill, and hope I want your comment on this when you get a chance. One thing we've always heard when we're pushing permitless carry is that the Sheriff's Association and law enforcement was against it. Right? We hear that from Mark Hill time and time again. Now, I personally think that most law enforcement officers and most sheriffs in South Carolina believe in our gun rights. But we always hear from SLED and the Sheriff's Association that they don't. And now with this bill that Bruce Bryant is pushing, guess who's endorsing it? The Sheriff's Association of South Carolina. Guys, that's unacceptable. Sheriffs are elected by the people, and you can stand up for the people. So, Hobart, I hope we can count on you to stand up for our gun rights, both to pass permitless carry and to stop these kind of infringements from the state government. And I'll tell you, at the end of the day, it's not the sheriffs passing the laws, it's the state legislators. It is the Republican state legislators here in Greenville and Spartanburg that have lined up to vote for this stuff. And there's only one way to stop it. And it's not easy, it isn't quick, it isn't the get-rich-quick scheme. Is you've got to consistently and persistently put pressure on these guys through email, through phone calls, and through face-to-face interaction. Now, October 11th, here in Greenville, there is a delegation meeting at 5:30 at County Square. Every single state senator and state rep from Greenville County will be there. Guys, if you were as mad as on the back of the agenda, if you flip over your agenda, the details are there. Guys, if you were as mad as I am, and honestly, as let down as I am by these guys, the only thing you can do right now, up until next year when you vote them out of office, is go face them face to face and let them know what you are doing as my employee is unacceptable. And if you try to pass this bill, I will hold you accountable. October 11th at 5:30. You can sign up to speak. I think the email's on the back of the agenda as well if you'd like to do so. I will tell you, if you want to speak, sign up tonight or tomorrow. Don't wait till the last minute, because we've had situations where some rhino hunters have tried to sign up to speak late or up against the deadline and been denied. So if you want to speak about whether it's the bill they already passed and hold them accountable for doing that, or bring up this bill and tell them not no but hell no, it's October 11th at 5:30. What's the number? I think it's 3718. One second. If not, I will find it when I get done talking. I'll let people know. I think it's 3718. Let me double check that real fast. But either way, guys, like I said, this is real. People, we talk all the time about, Joe Biden and the Democrats from D.C. coming and take our guns. Guys, Joe Biden, remember your address, they told him. he's not coming to steal your guns. But Republicans in Columbia are actively working to restrict your gun rights. They did this year, they're going to try to do it again next year. For your own sake, for my sake and my family's sake, please show up on October 11th.
get engaged in this battle. Because if we stay silent, they will continue to do what they've always done, which is restrict our rights more and more and more, and expect to paddle back on the door. I'm fed up, guys. I hope you are. October 11th. Thank you guys for your time.